I am Frank Bever, and from the Eel River Church of the Brethren, and I am impressed with their ability, or I think I'll be anyhow, because they've been at it, and it's working out. Hopefully, so far, so good. Okay. That's kind of a long story because we were graduating. I graduated from high school in South Edge, Wabash, and I had a couple of friends that were really, really buddies. You know, you're kind of form those groups, and they had a couple of. Well, they each had a friend from Manchester, lady. I didn't have any. I wasn't really much interested. Anyhow, it come down to the fact that they got to talking between themselves and decided, I think Olive would be interested. One thing led to another, and long story short, she was given to me her address. I think, anyhow, she had already graduated or whatever, but anyhow, she's working in Fort Wayne. Started a writing, back and forth writing initially, and one thing led to another, and next thing I know, World War II was ready to start, did start. She wrote to me, I think, first, and that's history. I don't think I thought too much about it at that time, whether she would or would not be. It was somebody to communicate to and to find out what's going on back in the States. That's not very convincing. But things developed, and I'd have an infrequent furlough, not after I was overseas, of course, but here in the States. And it was probably, well, I don't know how to put that, but really, one thing led to another. And I didn't think too much about marriage at that time. And yeah, you guys, but again, it's a miracle. Three of them was in here yesterday. Your age. I look at those guys and think, that can't be my sons. The oldest one is 73 years of age. The oldest of 5 sons. And that's a hard thing for this old man to believe too, but it is, that's the truth. So that's not a very positive answer, but still, the best I can do. The oldest one started college here after high school, graduation here. After that, I never heard a question about the wisdom of the younger ones next to him down the line. Are we going to have to go to college after high school? They just took it for granted that Jerry went, he's the senior of the group. The rest of them would be expected to do the same. They did. They got along good. They were good students. And kind of scattered over the U.S. The furthest now is out in Nebraska. But other than that, the other 4 are within distance here, and I'm extremely grateful for that because I like to have them visit, and they do. Fort Wayne, Warsaw, 2 Warsaws, and then the one out there in Nebraska, so it worked out. Well, something mentions about the Christmas in them too, but the joys, I think, is, well, one recent one. On turning 100 here a while back, Tom, he's back, he's a great helper, number 2 son. And he put together that greeting down at the park here in Manchester. Kind of an open house for friends of the past as well as anyone else interested in somebody that is turning 100 years of age and celebrating. And he put it on in the Scout Hall or whatever that building is called down here in the park. It's a big, expansive territory and productive to that type of a get-together. But anyhow, started for certain hours and extended throughout the day. And the people that come in to that to help the old man and his sons celebrate it was amazing to me. I couldn't believe it. But pretty much all day, and the opportunity, you shake hands and greet one another, and that was a product of, well, I enjoyed it. And obviously the people that attended did too, because I saw an awful lot of laughter on the floor. So I don't think I did much of anything other than what the other groups did, but I never had any trouble putting on extra weight. And I didn't do anything. I had regular meals. Of course, maybe the farm start had something to do with it. I don't know, but I just thought everybody was 99 pounds of humanity, but still, I didn't do anything special. And Mom would serve a farmer's diet. I lived on a farm till I was about, 18 or 20 years of age, I guess. And farm food. I think that reverts back to the farm too. I had a like for fried potatoes. The greasier, the better. Mom was good on that, frying potatoes for 7 kids at one time in our home. And we all had our place around the table. We would sit there and eat her products and preparations for the meals. And Dad was right here on my lap. And he didn't have much to say, but what he said, you better listen. Basically 2, which is a little unusual, I agree. I was a printer for, I call it 30 years, job printing. And I ran a post office for 20 years. And I was working at the post office, easy job, small office. And I was working there, and the kids kid me to this day about working until I was 79 years of age. And they think that was fun. That was unusual, I guess, but it was simple. It was easily got to. And I had a family there, the little community of Serbia. And I meet people here. Oh yeah, I remember you. You waited on me at the Serbia post office. But that's the second one. The first one was a job printing plant building on Main Street, about halfway down Main Street here in Manchester. It happens that I think we'd moved to Manchester by then. We'd moved a number of times in our life. And it was convenient, but that was the basic. I don't know if there's a place to say it or not, but I went under the GI Bill of Rights, Southern Indiana, to learn another additional aspect of the printing trade, which was running a linotype machine. A huge machine that set the type. You keep putting metal in it, and it melts it up, and it's a liquid form, and it spits out whatever you've got in there, a little like a typewriter. And it was 3 months down there. I remember I was married by then, and my wife came down to see me once or twice a month. And well, that was learning that trade. It was an interesting trade, and I got along good at it. And I was grateful that I could, on my 79th birthday, still be interested in the printing trade. So, if I was to select one, I think it would be Christmas. I remember putting together a little electric train for our oldest son. Just getting kind of specific out of the 5, but it was one I thought of. Had a big plywood sheet, and I had holes in it in the train track and I got the track and mounted it permanently on that piece of plywood. And then we already had a train. I was confident that Jerry had a train, and it was put on that track, and they would spend many hours, or he would anyhow, running that train around that track. Half the time jump off or watch some type of a difficulty in the operation of it. But anyhow, that is the one that I had in mind when I read that, and how over the course of the 5 kids, how Christmas did indeed materialize. So that's about what I can think of on that. It would have to be World War II. That was, it reflects to our kids too. Our third son and his wife, about 2 years ago, decided, I want to see where Dad was over there in France and Germany. And they did go over there for about a week. And I've got a paper on the wall over there with about 40 members of my infantry company that did not come back for obvious reasons. They looked up a great number of those graveyard sites over there while they were there. And I think of that daily. And I come with this just a whisker of escaping with my life. The Germans saw that big tank coming, and we were column of infantry on this side, the column infantry on that side of the tank. I was an infantryman, by the way. And They saw it coming. They threw a shell that exploded right in front of me. We were pretty close to it. I took on my right knee. They got the biggest chunk of the explosion of the shell on the tank, but it flew out each direction. And that was the end of my combat for quite 3 months of that time. The medics were close by. They took care of me. They did a good job. I ended up recuperating back in England for about 3 months. And then they sent me back to my infantry unit. And that was it was a great time to be back to my old buddies that had survived long to that time. And I spent up to the duration of the war in Germany. And we were destined for the Pacific. The Pacific War was still going on. And they got our company prepared. We sent back to the States. We could be off for 1 month. And then you're shipped out to the Pacific area, Japan, basically. But again, thank God, it was over before we were destined to go. I was walking the streets down in Mississippi, waiting for the time to come for our unit to assemble and go overseas and start another combat series, but that wasn't needed. I was okay to go home. That was a joyful time. I could see the results of what it was doing. Kids with their arms blew off or whatever it was. It didn't make sense. And Roger and he sits there a lot of times. I'll sit here. We'll talk about this type of thing. But that's why it was so crazy. People can't get along. And I regret that. And a simple approach that I can contribute to the peace-giving aspect. And I'm glad I'm in the Church of the Brethren from that standpoint. But I saw so much. It just didn't make sense. And it still don't. People are shooting them. Pick up that paper, Fort Wayne, shooting them. That's the answer to all the questions. It won't work. It won't work. Yeah, I get emotional over such things as that, but five male kids. Fortunately, none of them had to go. One of them was real close, but the oldest one, but we didn't have to go, and I was gratified at that. Well, all of my wife was great. She was in the Church of the Brethren from day one of her life. Her mom and dad. I never got to meet her dad, but I met her mother. Her mother was a resident here. I think was halfway instrumental, at least, on us, she and I, coming to Timbercrest. And a most gracious lady. She, was a good advertisement for the Church of the Brethren. I don't know, unless it would be live and let live. Over there, it was taking life. That was a part of the biggest part of your game. Carrying a rifle over your shoulder, or a gun at your side. You see somebody that is in a different dress than we were, a pretty good sign that you better start shooting. That don't make sense. No, other than I feel like I'm not being a very good member. But it's so easy to me after, 50 years, I reckon, to get up and sit here and watch it on there. I especially enjoyed your sitting there and asking questions here in recent days or weeks or whatever. And, only one of the kids shows evidence in following the suit of the Brethren traditions. Him and his wife worked a lot of extra hours in Fort Wayne, the church in the north part of Fort Wayne. And we'll compare notes occasionally, and it's interesting to hear and see the programs that are on the TV and how they built them up. I think their church is in on it too. And, I get a kick out of watching the local Manchester Church of the Brethren here, as well as Eel River. And it's easy to verbally uplift them anyhow.